Salut et bienvenue, welcome to EBI25. Today we're looking at comparatives and superlatives, which are quite posh words for saying words that help us compare two things, and the way to say like bigger, smaller, better, worse. That's what comparatives and superlatives are. Now this is a great EBI to have, and I'll tell you why. Because you've got to give loads of opinions in your work, but opinions can be quite repetitive and they can be boring for an examiner to see the same opinions. Whereas if you take two concepts and you compare them, that is a really good way to make your work more interesting and to make it stand out. They're also really helpful words, like just in general in your life. You'll need to say things are bigger, smaller, better, worse. So they're really going to improve your French as well. Today, we're going to go through the rules. This video goes through all of the rules for comparatives and superlatives and gives you a bit of practice, and then it's down to you and what you do in your pink book for your red pen and your daily tests to make sure you master this grammar point today. Alors mes petits, right guys, so for this EBI there are 6 key questions I want you to look at. We get quite grammatical in English today with this word a suffix, so hopefully you know that. What I want you to do now is put me on pause, read through these 6 questions. Are there any you can answer? Think about it, and then I'm going to go through each question one by one and explain, and I'm going to give you some little tasks as we go along to just practice this point so you can get it and you can conquer it. Your extra challenge today, there's not that much language to learn today, so what I do for my extra challenge is I'd write down these keywords on a post-it. I put the French on one side, I put the English on the other, and I'd stick it up somewhere in my room, probably on like my mirror, and then every time I went to that place in my room, I'd look at the English, try and say the French, turn it over, repeat. This is what you will need to do today. Practice, practice, practice. So let's go through, put me on pause, see if you can answer these 6 questions. When you've had enough, restart the video, and I'm going to go look at question 1, 2, and 3 together. Alors mes petits, right guys, before we look at the CBI in French, let's have a look at how it works in English. So a comparative in English, if I want to compare things, I just use the suffix er and I stick it on the end of things. Let me give you an example. French is cool. French is cooler than Spanish. See what I've done? To compare them, I've just stuck that er on the end. And this is how you compare things in English. Tall, taller, big, bigger, small, smaller. All you need to do is stick that er in the end. But in French, you never do that. There's no suffix for anything to compare. You always say more than or less than. So French is cool. French is more cool than Spanish. You can't say cooler. You've got to say more cool than, more hard than, less dull than. So you always say more something than, more less, more something than, less something than, or as something as, using plus que, moins que, and aussi que. Par exemple, voilà, so if I give you some quick examples, les maths is something ennuyeux, whole school assembly. So I want to say maths is more boring than whole school assembly. So I say le maths est plus ennuyeux que, more boring than. All you need to do is put plus que around your adjective to say more than or a. Second one, elle est intelligente, ses amis. I've gone for elle est aussi intelligent que ses amis. She's as intelligent as her friends. If you want to say she's cleverer, you can't say cleverer, you have to say more clever than. Elle est plus intelligente que, or she's stupider than. Elle est moins intelligente que. Easy. You always use plus que for more than, moins que for less than, and aussi que for as. Alright, this one here then, French is more complicated than physics. So compliqué is our adjective. Le français est plus compliqué que la physique. Voilà, easy. So all you need to remember is plus que for more than, moins que for less than, and then aussi que for as something as. Et voilà mes petits. Right guys, we've had a look at 1, 2, and 3. Put me on pause, see if you can answer these 3 questions. When you think you had enough, recommencez the video, I'll go through the answers. Alors mes petits, so a comparative is a word that makes you compare two things. How do you say the suffix er in French? You can't. It doesn't exist. You always say more than or less than. So you can't say cleverer or bigger or smaller. It's always more clever than, more big than, more small than. How do you say more than, less than, as? These are 3 keywords for you today. Think about your extra challenge. This is what you need to put on them. Plus que, moins que, aussi que. Plus que, moins que, aussi que. Et voilà. Let's put you to the test. Let's get you comparing some things using this language. Et voilà mes petits, donc maintenant vous avez une activité ici. Ici, j'ai 1, 2, 3, 4 phrases en anglais. Ce qu'il faut faire en utilisant les mots-clés ici, il faut traduire les phrases en français. Travaillez dans vos cahiers roses, utilisez un stylo rouge. See what you can do, guys. Pink books, red pens. I want you to translate 1, 2, 3, and 4. See how well you've got this grammar point. Put me on pause, give yourself 2-3 minutes. When you think you're ready for the answers, recommencez la vidéo. Bon courage, hein? On y va. Alors mes enfants, if you're listening to me now, you've had a go at translating these 4 sentences and you want the answers. Alors mes petits, let's see what we've got. Donc, le premier, Mr. Ennis is more interesting than Dr. Adebemi. True story. Let's put it together. So, easy this. I just want more interesting than. You need Mr. Ennis est plus intéressant que Dr. Adebemi. Facile. Alors, numéro 2, c'est un peu plus compliqué. Why is it a bit more complicated? Because now you're talking about someone who's feminine and you're using adjectives. So what does the adjective do for feminine? Think about our adjective patterns. This is EBI17. If you're not sure, you can watch that video. The word for pretty is jolie. What do you need to add on the end because it's feminine? And then you need to say is prettier than me. How'd you get that? You can't say it in French. You've got to say she is more pretty than me. So you need elle est plus jolie que moi. And you need the extra E because it's talking about a girl. Elle est plus jolie que moi. She is prettier than me. You say in French, she is more pretty than me. Et voilà, numéro 3. He is thinner than her. Same problem, guys. You've got this ER in the end. This doesn't exist in French. If you want to say he's thinner than, you need to say he is more thin than. Or you could say less fat than, but that complicates it. Let's keep it simple. He is more thin than her. Qui est? Il est plus mince que elle. Or qu'elle, because it's 2 vowels touching. Il est plus mince qu'elle. Voilà. And our last one, we are as intelligent as. So you're going to need to use aussi que, and it's plural. So when you're using your adjective, this has to be plural as well. This is EBI17 if you're not sure why these adjectives are changing for plural. Watch that video after. So we are as nous sommes aussi intelligents with an S que year 7. Et voilà, nous sommes aussi intelligents que, we are as clever as. Guys, good effort here. If you haven't quite got full marks, that's fine. As long as you're understanding this now, this is comparatives. This is step 1. I'd love to see this in your work next time. Now, we're going to move over to something different, but we always lump them together. Let's look at superlatives. Alors mes petits, right guys, so halfway there, we've looked at questions 1, 2 and 3 comparatives. Put me on pause, you should be able to answer these questions now. If you can't, you need to go back and watch the video again and come back to this slide. Pause me now, see if you can answer them. Alors mes petits, so a comparative is a word that helps you compare two things. In English, we put the suffix on the end, bigger, smaller. In French, you can't do that. You have to say more than or less than. How do you say these 3 keywords? Plus que, moins que, aussi que. And I've used different sizes to help you remember what they mean. This is what it's all about. This is how you compare two things. A superlative then, moving on to number 4, is a bit different. Let's have a look. Alors, so a comparative compares things more, less. A superlative is how you say the most or the least. Mr. Ennis is the most handsome man in the world. Mr. Ennis is the least vain man in the world, for example. So this is what a superlative is. Now in English, you put an EST on the end, yeah? The handsomest, the coolest, the strongest, all superlatives for me. In French, you don't have this EST suffix at the end. you need to say, there we go, this is the English, you need to say the most or the least. So I'd say Mr. Ennis is the most cool, Mr. Ennis is the most great, Lily's life is the most sad. That is how you create a superlative in French. This est on the end of a word doesn't happen. So this is dead simple for a lot of it. Plus que is more than. To say the most, you just put le, la, or les in front of it, depending on if it's masculine, feminine, or plural. Le plus, la plus, les plus. To say the least, the same thing. Moins que is less. Le moins, la moins, les moins is the less or the least. And then there's two keywords you need to know if you're post-it. Le meilleur is the best, and le pire is the worst. Le meilleur, le pire. There we go. Now be careful because these change. With an E on the end, S, and then ES. You've got to remember our agreement. And this is how you say that suffix EST. Le plus, le moins, le meilleur, le pire. So guys, key questions again. Revise 1, 2, and 3. Can you answer 4, 5, and 6 now? Put me on pause and go for it. Alors mes petits, so comparative is a word that compares two things. You don't put an ER in the end. You always say the most or the least, or more than or less than. How do you say more than, less than? As plus que, moins que, aussi que. Et voilà, right, a new language. A superlative is how you say the most, the least, the best, the worst, or est, the coolest, the quickest, the fattest. That's all superlatives in English. This doesn't exist in French. You don't have the EST. You always say the most fat, the most quick, the most skinny. How do you say the best and the worst? Le meilleur, or le, la, les meilleurs, and le, la, les pires. Two keywords you've got to know. Alors mes petits, right, let's work through some examples of superlatives together before I test you. So, the most beautiful, beautifulest doesn't exist in English either. The most beautiful then, beautiful here I've told you is masculine. So think about our adjective, yeah, beau, belle, beau, belle. This is what we're after. The most beautiful is masculine, so I say le plus beau. Et voilà, le plus beau, the most beautiful. Change it to feminine. We've got to change beau to what? Belle. And then the le changes to la plus belle. Easy. All right, the fastest. We don't have this in French. I always say the most fast is masculine. The word for fast is rapide. Donc, le plus rapide, the most fast or the fastest. And then finally, the least intelligent. I made this tough. I made it feminine and plural, so it's going to be les moins intelligents. And look, I've got an extra E for feminine and an S because they're plural. Perfect. Right, these are 4 we've worked together. Let's put you to the test. Et voilà mes petits, donc ici, j'ai les adjectifs qu'on va utiliser et ici, on a les le plus, le moins, etc. ici. Donc, ce qu'il faut faire, 1, 2, 3, 4, dans vos cahiers bleus, dans vos cahiers roses, comment dire, the oldest, the most beautiful, the best. Attention, think whether I want you to do the masculine, the feminine, or the plural. These two are feminine, plural. Think about how our adjective changes. Think about how our superlative changes. Put the two together. Put me on pause now. Have a go at these. Now, I don't care if you get all of them wrong. It's all about your thought process and testing yourself on whether you've got this EBI. So, pause me now. When you think you're ready for the answers, recommencez la vidéo. Bon courage mes petits, on y va. Alors mes enfants, if you're listening to me now, you've had a go at this and you're ready for our answers. So let's look at it. I took away the adjective. I've used some really irregular ones as well to properly test you. And I've taken away the superlatives. I'm sure you've got the hang of this so far. So put the two together. Let's see what we've got. The oldest. We don't have this in French. This EST doesn't exist. So we always say the most old. It's masculine. So we need le plus. And then old is vieux. Le plus vieux. The oldest feminine then, we've got to change these two. Now this is the easy bit. Instead of le plus is feminine, so we change that to la plus. And then vieux changes to vieille. la plus vielle. And these are our Big Ben ones, remember? Beau belle, vieux vielle, vieux vielle. Alors, numéro 2. This time I've used beautiful. I'm not giving you the adjective up here, but you should know it and how it changes. And it's feminine and plural. So I need to say, this time, as they're plural, I need to say les plus. And then beautiful is belle with an S on the end. Les plus belles. And you will see that in your GCSE and you can use it. Je vais en vacances en Espagne. J'adore y aller parce que ici, il y a les plages les plus belles, the most beautiful beaches. Or you could say les plages les plus belles du monde, the most beautiful beaches in the world. That's a beautiful use of a superlative that the examiner is going to love. Alors, et finalement, the best, you've got to know this word. The feminine plural is going to be les meilleurs. Oh, that's wrong. Les meilleurs with an S on the end. There we go. With an S on the end. Les, and that's wrong as well. Right, this is all gone wrong. It should be les, voilà, meilleurs. There we go, with an R and then an E and an S on the end. Les meilleurs, feminine and plural. Alors mes petits, bon effort ici. Right, we've worked through comparatives and superlatives. They're more advanced than you think. You know how this works. See if you can answer all these 6 questions now at the end of this activity. You might even now want to do the extra challenge to make sure you can remember this in 2 days, in a week, in 6 weeks when you've got your next assessment and you've got to try and do this again. Make that and do the extra challenge now. If you can answer the questions, keep watching the video. The next slide is going to tell you your next step, which is doing the daily tests in your pink book. If you're not quite sure on these questions, go back and watch again and see what you can do. Thank you for watching. You've done really well today. Alors, merci, bon effort, et à la prochaine fois. Au revoir. Your next step is your daily test. So, your French teacher will have set you this for your homework. You've got your daily test booklet. Do not write in the booklet. What I want you to do, step 1, is in your pink books, copy out this box, copy out all the questions, copy out all the answers, and then copy out the blank test next to it. Then you're going to revise all the answers here. So you're going to spend your time learning this, make sure you master it. Once you've got it, this is what I want you to do. Cover up the answers, make sure you can't see them, and then in the blank test that you've copied out, take out your red pen, see if you can answer all of these questions and see if you can fill in any boxes. Then once you've done that, uncover this and look at what you've done and mark up your work. What have you got right? What have you got wrong? And then have a look. This is the ideal bit. Rinse and repeat. Go back to the start, revise the answers again, and then test yourself again, and then revise again, and then test again, and then mark again, and repeat until you've absolutely cracked it. And then if you've cracked it, say you started Monday and by Tuesday you know it off by heart, great. I bet you by Friday you will have forgotten it again. It's called a daily test because we want you to do it once every day, and the best students do this. Test yourself every day. If you can do it for 5 consecutive days in a row and get 100%, you've cracked it, you've got it, you've done it. So that is your homework for next time. Your extra challenge, guys, is to make a revision poster on this. So why don't you watch the video again, pause it, make a poster, make it look amazing, stick it up in your room or show it to your French teacher, show to make sure you've mastered this. This is EBI7. It is so important. Hopefully now you're happy and you can crack it. Thank you for watching. À bientôt. Au revoir.